Hello and welcome back to the ministry. And today the Lord has me doing something different. If you noticed, I did my hair. but he had me do something different today because he brought this a revelation to me 4 or 5 days ago, and it started with this. Sometimes a lesson won't be learned until the process is fully completed in the long suffering. Then it will completely be broken for good. Now, I've heard this before. I've experienced it before, where a situation just extended for a longest period of time. I felt like, God, why am I in this situation? Why is this like this? What's going on? Why does it have to be so long? What am I still doing here? What is this situation still like this for? So I'm talking from a place that I have full understanding of. I've been the Joseph in the prison for the 3-year-long period. I never went to prison, but I'll tell you this, the place I was at felt like it. And I'm going to say this, that when you go through a season, sometimes it can feel like that. You be wondering, like, God, why? God, why is it taking so long? God, why? I was watching a movie yesterday, and we're going to discuss that movie soon. And the character kept wondering, I've been underground. I've been hiding. We were supposed to be getting our instructions from this particular person, but the person ain't giving us. Every time I ask him for instructions of what to do, he keeps saying, wait. Anybody know this person? God does something. You know, that's how he operates. Sometimes you be sitting there like, God, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. He'd be like, wait. He'd be like, God, I'm ready to go. Ready. Wait. But I'm gonna leave that over there because I'm gonna get distracted and we ain't got that much time on this video. So when it comes to those situations, you be wondering why it taking so long for a scenario to play out. And it's like, God, why it taking so long though? But when you let patience have its perfect work and build temperance in its long suffering, come on, we in the word, right? Then you'll see the manifestation in what is supposed to come. That's why I always be sitting up there like, some of y'all ain't got no patience to wait for your God-to-day spouse. I mean, sometimes they gotta go through something for a minute and allow them to process that. It's like I was saying in that other word where you be sitting up there like, God's saying he's going through something. In the spirit, he's sending you signal. He going through something. You be sitting there, but where you at though? And it's like, he's going through his suffering. He's going through his long suffering, going through what needs to be flushed out of him so he can be ready to be with you. But you over here sitting up there like, but I've been waiting for such and such and such amount of time. You do realize that a marriage is not just you, it's you and that other person. And if they keep going back and forth and you keep going back and forth and people keep getting double-minded, and when he ready, you out of position, and you ready, he out of position, how can two walk together unless they agree? This is completely not part of what I was saying, but it's relevant. I always say this, it's a 3-legged race. You, him, y'all legs is tied together, and God's guiding you. If he's moving fast, he's going to drag you. Haven't I told that story before? Where I did the 3-legged race and they dragged me? I was 7 years old. I'll never forget that. You never forget being dragged. if you want to stand still, he gonna drag you. And if you're not operating in the right thing and he don't want to move, guess what? You gonna fall flat on your face. I always say this. Because if he's operating with God and you try to operate with God, but you try to rush ahead of him, guess what? You're going to fall flat on your face. Because if you 3 legs and your 2 legs in the middle is tied together, what else can you do if he don't move? But fall forward and fall flat on your face. I'm just saying. So, with that being said, moving on to the next point. Some of these men had to go through a process and they're a little bit slow in the process that they got to go through because God's taking them through the process in a way in which they can handle it in a manner that in which they are able to. And if that takes time, guess what? Let it take time. But I'm about to explain to you right here what the Lord showed me. Because for the past couple of days, I've been seeing lust of the flesh, lust of the flesh, lust of the eye, pride of life. And I'm like, I'm writing notes for something. Lust of the flesh, lust of the eye, pride of life. I was doing something else. Lust of the flesh, lust of the eye, pride of life. Somebody was talking on the video, lust of the flesh, lust of the eye, pride of life. I said, Lord, what are you talking about? And last night I was looking at something and the person was reading the scripture and when they were reading, I was like, oh, that makes sense. And the Lord showed me this. And we about to jump in this word at exactly the point that the Lord showed me and gave me this revelation. Okay? This is what he showed me. So, I'm reading out of the scripture. We're in Judges 16, verse, I believe it's 21. Yeah. And the Philistines seized Samson, because this is at the point in time right after his hair got cut, right? And he was being taken down to be mocked and humiliated, okay? Right here. This is what I saw. The Philistines seized him and gouged out his eyes and brought him down to Gaza, bound him with bronze fetters, and he ground at the mill in the prison, but the hair of his head began to grow again after it had been shaved. Okay. Now one might say, that's a random part to start at in that scripture. Most people will start at the Delilah part, or they'll talk about how Samson busted the walls down. Let me tell you something. You want me to talk about Samson? I want you to go back in my word that I did back in April sometime, where I did a whole rundown on Hercules, Samson, and I believe it was Jacob, Hercules, and Samson was the name of that word. I talk all about that. I don't need to review that again. That's a very good word. Go back. It's a 6-part video. Go look at it. If you want to listen to what I talked about, very deep revelation. Cool. But this is something completely separate. But it can tie into that part. The Lord brought my attention to this. Now, what am I talking about? Lust of the flesh, lust of the eye, and pride of life. I'm not going to read the direct scripture because we all know it. Satan took Jesus at the end of his 40-day fast, right? Up on a mountain. First thing he tempted him with was what? Bread. He said, "You're hungry. Why don't you turn this rock into bread?" Jesus said no. Next, he had him up on the mountain and he said, "Why don't you throw yourself off?" Jesus said, "No, I'm not going to throw myself off." Next, he said, the third thing was, "I can give you this entire world if you serve me." He said, "Why am I going to do that if I have God?" And God's talking to me while I'm talking about this, and he just gave me another revelation. Your God-ordained spouses are in the midst of their 3 tests. That's what this is about. Okay, I see. Now, they're in the middle of the last 3 tests God needs them to pass before they can get to you. Ooh-wee. That's what this is about. And some of them, the first go round before they entered into the wilderness, they failed the test. But the Lord allowed them to do that because he needed to prune them. Going back to the original point of this message, long suffering, because sometimes the lesson won't be learned until the process is fully complete in the long suffering to be completed or completely broken. Okay? Your God-ordained spouse was tested in these 3 areas several times over and over, and they kept failing that test. You may wonder, why is it taking up so long? I mean, what's going on? Why is this? And I've been wondering. Remember, I kept doing them words on the counterfeit, and I was trying to figure out why God kept bringing me back to the counterfeit. He was being tested at the counterfeit, and he kept falling for the same damn test. Sorry, but guess what? I get frustrated over stupidity. I'm sorry. If my God-ordained spouse sees this, I'm so sorry I had to say it like that. But you gonna learn something about me. I have a tendency, when I see somebody do something over and over and over again that's stupid, I start cussing. Because I'm like, I love. But I'm that person. My patience. God be working on me. I don't like cycles. If I can get out of a cycle in one go. But that's what's probably more than likely been happening. Every time God would test them with the lust of the flesh, bring that one person back around, bring one of the few people back around that was a tempter. Because you know Satan always does that. Because what? God always do what? God told Job what? God told Satan, go test my brother Job and just don't kill him. So your God-ordained spouse had to go through the testing. So when he had to go through the testing, he kept failing. And this is what happened, okay? When he failed the lust of the flesh test, just like Samson, he was bound. I was sitting there the other weekend. I was in prayer about some things, and I was trying to figure out, why am I saying 334? What am I saying bound for? 334 means to be shut up and bound, imprisoned. Where was Samson? He ended up being imprisoned. Okay? He was bound. And I thought of Samson, but I didn't understand why the Lord was showing me that. I'm like, what? Because I released the other word and you saw me in the same sweater. It's been a week since I released that word. Yeah, it's been about a week, but I just happened to be had the same undershirt on. Yeah, and that's what he's been dealing with. He kept failing the daggone test, and every time he failed the test of the lust of the flesh and kept going back, because I kept wondering, God, why you keep having me hear these songs about going back to a relationship or a woman tempting him or wanting him back and this, that, and the other. He had a rotation of sets of women that have probably been coming around every time this test was instituted. The Lord said, send that one. And it's not so much that he said send that one. He allowed Satan, just like he did with Job, go test him. Go do what you want to do him. And every time he did it, he either failed the test or he may have passed. Because this, you got to understand, Satan's like this. The second you pass one test, Satan will send somebody to stand right next to you that's going to do the exact same thing, but they operate from a different spirit. Satan don't stop. You thought you just got away from that. And he's like, oh, I got away from the narcissist. Whoo! And the victim narcissist comes up, which victim narcissist acts like the innocent one and is still setting you up. So, yeah. So, Samson, therefore got bound. The bound, soul tie, they've been tied up in soul ties. I recall, what do you want me to say? They got to cut them in spirit. And they had to be strong enough to cut them. And what's happening, and I've been listening to Tiffany Montgomery, and she's been talking about when the devil realized that you done cut the tie, what he does is try to reestablish the covenant through dreams, by having you have sex with the same person that you was having sex with in reality in a dream, because they come to you in a dream and you didn't have no control over that, especially if you weren't looking for it. So that'd happen. Then he'll have you go through another thing where I'm gonna actually pause this and come right back, because I want to actually do more extensive, and so I'm come right back. Hold on.